Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is the latest Indiana Jones film. Before this came out, my wife and I, she is a huge Indiana Jones fan. She loves the films. We watched all 4 of the previous ones beforehand. I'll quickly go over them. Raiders of the Lost Ark is a nearly perfect movie. I hadn't seen it in years. So it was really a pleasure to go back and just rewatch it, and just how exciting and how great and how well that movie is filmed. The Marion stuff about her backstory and Indiana Jones' backstory is kind of creepy when you put the timelines together, and that's one of the biggest issues I have with the film. But other than that, every piece of that film is just so excitingly done. It's never ever stops being an incredible joyride. The characters are fantastic, the action is fantastic, and it's just one of the greatest adventure action films ever made. Temple of Doom is not as good. I don't think it's a horrible film because it has really great set pieces, but overall it just doesn't work as well as Raiders. It's just not as good. Supporting characters, besides Short Round's great, but the lady, Lee Scott is the character's name. She is just very annoying, very shrill throughout the movie. She doesn't really do anything. She doesn't have real agency like Marion does, who's a much stronger character throughout the film. There is some fun, as I said, there's fun set pieces throughout it. The intro is really fun. Minecart chase is really fun. It is kind of racist, which it's not great in that regards. I understand what they're trying to do is kind of find something that's a very pulpy plot line that you would find in those old pulp serials back in the day. They would have a plot line like this. Go to India, find these sacred stones, have to go on this journey throughout this very broad Indian stereotype thing. The problem is it just kind of plays off nowadays in 2023 as an Indian stereotype, which is not ideal. It's kind of racist. And then Last Crusade is great. Last Crusade is so much fun. Back to the quality of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Bringing Sean Connery on as the dad was a great move. He's fantastic. He's funny. He's hilarious. He knows how to play into being an action star in the film while being not, having the physicality of like a 40-year-old Harrison Ford. Of the Crystal Skull, which is definitely the worst of the ones so far. It's kind of very silly. Don't really know what to do with the older Indiana Jones, older Harrison Ford. He's kind of still in this half and half stage where they're trying to make him Indiana Jones and make him the action star, while also he clearly doesn't have the physical capabilities to do that. So it kind of doesn't really work all the way. They do give it a nice big bow tie fairy tale ending. I like Shia LaBeouf and I like Mutt. His character does kind of work, I feel. And I wish he did come back, but obviously he couldn't for very Shia LaBeouf reasons. Then we go on to the Dial of Destiny, the 5th and maybe hopefully final Indiana Jones film. What the Dial of Destiny does is it takes Indiana Jones to 1969. There is a big opening set piece with a digitally CGI de-aged Harrison Ford, where he is like young Indiana Jones. We go back into that part, and he is trying to get the blade that killed Jesus Christ from these Nazis. But it turns out, played by Mads Mikkelsen. Then it finds out that the real prize is Aristotle's Dial of Destiny. That is what the Nazis are looking for, because it turns out it could hold the power of time travel. We skip forward to 1969, where Indiana Jones is at the point where he is graduating. He's retiring from his position at the university. He is living in Brooklyn now, and he's got a bunch of hippie neighbors that he's yelling at. And then, everything's kind of winding down for him. His son, Mutt, died in the war, and because of that, it caused Miriam to leave him because he couldn't really deal with their grief. He couldn't respectfully handle that. So that leads to him being very alone, very old, very sad. Well, then one day, Phoebe Waller-Bridge comes in to his classroom, and then she wants to talk about the Dial of Destiny, and then she eventually, through some ways, gets a hold of it and then tries to pawn it in the black market, and Indiana Jones goes over to stop her while Mads Mikkelsen gets a hold that she has it and is trying to take it. That is the basic start of the film and how the film kind of gets going. This is, I'd say, better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Some people would probably disagree with that, but I thought it was fun. It's a fine fine send-off. The final act, I feel, is the best part. It gets very strange and very creative and does something different with the Indiana Jones franchise that I like. But for the most part, this kind of is designed as like, okay, Disney bought Lucasfilm. We're going to make a bunch of Star Wars movies, of course, but we also have Indiana Jones. We've got to make an Indiana Jones movie. This is kind of what it feels like. They didn't need to do this because they gave him the big finale send-off in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. They honestly didn't need to do that because he literally rides off into the sunset at the end of Last Crusade. But I do think if I'm giving them any kind of credit, the idea of making this would have been that, even though it's not Steven Spielberg as well, it's James Mangold directs this, who did Logan. The idea was, okay, no one really liked Kingdom of the Crystal Skull that much. No one would really consider it the best one, so why not give him one last big hurrah to go out on? And this doesn't really feel like a big hurrah. It's fun. It's fine. It's nice. But it's not amazing in any way, shape, or form. So it didn't really achieve that goal. Harrison Ford in it, at least now, because he is 82, kind of has to play the old man that doesn't really do big, giant action set pieces. They much more have like Phoebe Waller-Bridge to do those and Mads Mikkelsen. So at least that helps out. It makes it feel a bit more grounded and realistic. Well, it doesn't need to be grounded and realistic. This is like giant high fantasy adventure films. This is more about believability. It needs to feel believable, and this at least feels believable, whereas Kingdom of the Crystal Skull just didn't. And yeah, Phoebe Waller-Bridge is a great addition to the cast. The little kid that she has, her little like sidekick, is great. He's fun too. He's no short round, but who is? It is a fine send-off for Indiana Jones. I hope they don't make any more after this, as I really don't need to see a 90-year-old Harrison Ford running around in this Indiana Jones hat. Hopefully just hang up the hat and the whip and finish his story, because we don't need another Indiana Jones. I would be fine with doing a short round film. I'd be fine with doing a spin-off with Phoebe Waller-Bridge. She was great, but I think we don't need to do another Indiana Jones and film. I think these are fine in the past. This one is a perfectly okay movie. Didn't need to exist, but I'm not mad that I saw it. It's a solid 5 out of 10, and yeah,